Hello, welcome to Branding Beyond Words. Today I want to discuss the importance of defining your personal brand identity. But before we discuss the foundation of personal branding, I want to explain why this process is so important. Because we all have unique types of businesses and offer services, products, or a combination of both. No matter what it is, you must realize that we as individuals, as we step up and speak about our offerings and who we are, we immediately showcase ourselves as a personal brand. This is also true with someone working in a specialized field who wants to climb the corporate ladder by sharing their experience, vision, and accolades. However, to truly embrace your personal brand, you must take the necessary steps to discover your unique brand identity. It's not just about establishing your professionalism, it's about integrating your strengths, values, and passions to present a complete picture of who you are. Some of you may be thinking, but I know who I am. I'm dedicated, I'm devoted, I'm compassionate, I'm this, I'm that. And you can list off like one characteristic and value right after another. And while this may be true, we are also highly complex human beings. Defining our brands can sometimes feel like a daunting task, and this challenge mainly arises from the intricate nature of our identities, which are rich, diverse, and ever-changing. So personal branding goes beyond merely highlighting our best qualities or professional successes. It's about exploring the core of who we are and how we want to be seen in the world. It invites us to find a lovely blend of authenticity and thoughtful positioning that reflects our true selves and aligns with our career goals or business ventures. This process does require some self-awareness and introspection. It involves not only understanding our strengths and weaknesses, but also recognizing our values, passions, and the unique narratives that define our lives. Self-analysis can be demanding and sometimes uncomfortable because it pushes us to confront aspects of ourselves that we might typically overlook or struggle to articulate. Self-analysis can be demanding and sometimes uncomfortable because it pushes us to confront aspects of ourselves that we might actually typically overlook. We can't be everything to everybody. If you start naming dozens of characteristics and values that you have, this will end up being too much information to create a solid persona that your audience can actually understand. What works best is to refine those qualities in us and narrow down those values that relate to how we show up as a business owner, an expert in our profession, a performer, an artist, an author, a public speaker, or whatever it is. If your business's logo becomes the symbol representing its brand, then the symbol that represents your personal brand's core essence is you. It's your self-image. Your face is your logo. Think of it as your personal signature, one that leaves an impression with every interaction that you have on all the work that you do for your clients. I'm hired by ambitious entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business to a new level, but the current brand they are showcasing has either never been defined or is outdated and telling an old story. Together, we dig deep into what makes them brilliant and unique to ensure that every photograph that I capture of them draws their audiences so more people notice them, follow them, and eventually hire them. Speaking of the following, please make sure you follow me by liking and subscribing to this channel. And if you'd like to receive my newsletter, Branding Beyond Words, so you can get more brilliant advice on how to create a brilliant brand, then the information is below in the description. So the first step to defining our personal brand is to identify our values. We need to start by asking ourselves some key questions. What are you passionate about? What motivates you in your career and your personal life? What core values are important to you and how are they reflected in the work you do? If you have a list of 20 or even more, then you're going to look at each one of those values and then contemplate on each one and narrow them down, which ones resonate the most with you at this time. And I say at this time because maybe creativity is a really strong value of yours, but curiosity is more important. So it doesn't mean that your audience won't think that you're creative, but what you're going to be able to do is use curiosity as part of the core value, which becomes the narrative of your brand identity. And you want to narrow it down to 5 or 4 values. You don't want to have too many. Even 3 is probably better, because then you're going to be able to expand that narrative a little bit more, and it's going to be easier for your audience to understand. So once you have those values, they now become essential details in your marketing messaging that you want to share consistently. So you'll share stories of why they are important to you. If curiosity is your value, then what drives you may stem from uncertainty that sparks your curiosity and leads to creative solutions. And that is just an example, because if your value is curiosity, then your motivations could be completely different. So for example, one of my core values is authenticity. Not only do I strive to be transparent and authentic with my audience, but I feel it is essential to show up authentic, especially today, because people want to work with real people. And not only do you appear more trustworthy to your audience, but being who you are is also so much easier than trying to be like someone else. So therefore, I attract and work with clients who have the same values and are ready to showcase their authentic self. The second step to defining our personal brand identity is to uncover our primary characteristics. So here, we're going to start by asking ourselves, how do I want to be perceived by my audience? What do people notice about me when I first enter a room? A really good exercise that you can do is to ask the people in your network, your associates, your friends, and clients, and you can also ask family, but not too many family. In fact, maybe not ask family. It just depends. Family is going to have a different opinion about you than your associates and the clients that you work with. But what you want to do is you want to ask them, hey, I'm doing this brand little exercise, and I want to know what you thought about me when you first met me. Or maybe you ask, what shows up when I do? What qualities do I bring into a room? What did you notice about me when we first met? Why did you hire me? Ask those kinds of questions. If you ask enough people, you will start to be able to see some repetition. And this is a big clue that if your professional network sees these particular characteristics in you, then they may be what you choose to define your persona with them. And an easy way to ask the people close to you is to text them or call them, because then you'll get the answers right away. It'll be way quicker and easier. But if you want to email some of them too, I totally get it. That's fine. It's just that they're going to sit on it a little while, because it's like kind of like asking somebody for a testimonial. It just takes a little bit longer. So just remember to remind them, or maybe follow up with a text. And so once they have actually answered you, especially if you're in a conversation with them in real time, so if you're texting them, ask them, is there anything else? Feel free to word this however you want, by the way. I mean, it's just up to you. But if you ask them, is there anything else? Then they might actually stretch a little bit more to say, you know what? You also looked very, very secure in yourself. Who knows? Whatever that might have been. So for me, this journey started when I was at a networking event, and we were asked a similar question, and we had to go around the table and share what we saw in each other. Well, I noticed this pattern right away, because there were several people at the table that mentioned that I was bubbly and full of energy. And at first I thought, bubbly? I don't want to be seen as bubbly. And I think the reason they say this is because, well, I'm kind of round and I giggle a lot and I have a good sense of humor. So I also believe now that it has to do with my energy and my enthusiasm. So let me just say, it has taken me years to cultivate my personal brand, which is why I'm so passionate about helping people, especially women, find theirs. So when I was working on my brand, I decided that bubbly was actually okay. I can own that. I'm okay with that. I prefer, however, to describe my brand as more effervescent, because that vibe truly fits how I work with my clients, and especially while I'm photographing. So that's where part of my characteristics come from. That is, effervescence is one of them. So let me know if you feel that's an accurate description. So one thing I do know for sure is that your brand will consistently evolve because we are very complex human beings. And a significant element in our lives that I think that we can all agree on is that the only constant in our lives is change. This means that you should at least once a year evaluate your personal brand and assess if your values and character have changed in any way. Then you can revise your message to fit a more accurate representation of the brand. This doesn't mean that it's required to totally rebrand. You're just going to tweak the narrative a little bit. And if you're in the process of doing this and you've been in business for a couple of years and you feel like you're really, really coming into that brand now, then this is a good time to quote unquote rebrand if that's where you're at. But if not, you can still just add these tweaks even if you started your business 3, 5, 10 years ago. So Oprah is interesting. She's one of my favorite brands, but she says that she is not a brand. She is just Oprah. And I totally appreciate and respect that about her because she doesn't want to fit any mold or be labeled in any way. And this works for her because she is so authentic already and open about who she is to begin with. However, I think once an individual establishes themselves and their values to the world openly, then organically the culture around them begins to make assumptions about who they are based on their public persona. So it's that impression that people have of an individual that is the brand. So even though Oprah claims that she doesn't have a brand, she actually does. She has a great brand because she lives up to her mission and purpose, and she is very transparent about who she is. So for the average individual, though, this step of defining your brand identity is so important because if you want to be seen as an authentic brand, then you have to claim what beliefs are true to you. A brand builds its reputation based on the results of the work that they do for its clients and the testimonials it receives from it. So if you don't declare what you stand for, then your audience, the culture around you will actually come to their own conclusion about who you are. And that might actually be a false identity. So this is why this is so important. So the answers to the questions that we've just asked are going to serve as the building blocks for your personal brand. They help you carve out a niche that distinguishes you from others in your field. Your brand identity should resonate with authenticity, the truest representation of who you are. And once you define these personal elements, it becomes easier to communicate them consistently across different platforms, whether on your website, social media profiles, or even face-to-face networking settings. So let me repeat that. Taking the time to do this makes your marketing in general so much easier, especially if you know your audience, which will be another video coming up. If you really understand who your audience is and who you're actually talking to, then you're going to be able to go anywhere and literally share your brand voice on a regular basis. It's going to be so much easier. And when you are consistent with sharing your brand identity, you create a memorable and impactful presence that can open doors to new opportunities. So thank you so much for watching. And if you need assistance or would like to explore how we can capture your brand identity with dynamic portrait photography, then get a hold of me in the description below. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.